The only thing you have to fear is fear itself. Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and guests, for those of us who know history, that quote has been embedded in our memory banks. We know who said it, but who wrote it? I'll tell you who wrote it. Napoleon Hill, who wrote the book Think and Grow Rich, wrote that quote. He was a speechwriter for FDR. Who was Napoleon Hill? Some people really don't know who Napoleon Hill was. Napoleon Hill was born in 1883 in a little Appalachian mountain town of Pound, Virginia. I know a little bit about Pound, Virginia, because my grandfather, Troy Church, was born in Pound, Virginia in 1905. So Napoleon and I have come from the same stock of people, basically. When Napoleon was a child, he wanted to be an outlaw, like Jesse James. He packed around a 6-shooter. I can imagine Napoleon terrorizing the local townfolk. When he was young, his mother died. His father remarried, and his stepmother instilled within Napoleon the love and joy of learning. When Napoleon was in college, he worked as a reporter for a magazine, and in 1908 had a chance interview with Andrew Carnegie, the steel magnate. The interview lasted 3 days. During the interview, Carnegie challenged Hill to write the philosophy of success. And Hill accepted the challenge. Carnegie said he would give Hill all the letters of introduction to all the known business people of the day. Can you imagine interviews with Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, Wright brothers, Goodyear, Woolworth? Treasure trove of material to research. From this research, Hill was later to write The Laws of Success, which he developed the 17 principles of success and 30 principles of failure. In 1919, Hill developed and published the Golden Rule magazine. After it became successful, he left, which was a pattern that Hill developed. He would start something, it would become successful, and he would leave. He did this time and time again. During the 1924 time period, which was a really low point in his life, he actually sat down and wrote The Laws of Success. It was an 8-volume book set that he typed on a typewriter. But it was to be several years before The Laws of Success were published. In 1926, he met John Millett. John Millett was a newspaperman in Canton, Ohio. Mr. Millett was going to help Napoleon publish The Laws of Success. But at that time, he was writing an expose on the corruption between the mob and the Canton Police Department. This was during Prohibition. The mob had Mr. Millett murdered. They also targeted Hill because they thought he was part of the expose. Hill had to flee for his life. He had to hide in the basement of a house, totally shaken with fear. Fear smacked Napoleon down. So did Napoleon know fear? Yes, he knew fear. And it wasn't until the culprits were put in prison that he was able to come out of hiding. After that time, he did get The Laws of Success published. And then in 1929, the Great Depression, the stock market crash. Nobody wanted to buy books on success. So he went to work for FDR as a speechwriter. But during that time as a speechwriter, he wrote Think and Grow Rich, and published Think and Grow Rich in 1937. In 1938, Napoleon was able to savor the success of Think and Grow Rich. One day he was meditating in his car outside the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C. He fell into a meditational trance in which he had a conversation with whom he said was the devil. Was it the devil? I don't know. But whoever it was, he had to answer Hill truthfully the questions that Hill asked. It's a very interesting dialogue. In the book, Outwitting the Devil, the conversation itself takes up 160 pages. The thing about this book is that it was never published by Hill. Hill's wife read the manuscript, and she was terrified at what she read. Because in the conversation, the devil threatens to destroy Hill if he publishes the book. Last year, the Napoleon Hill Foundation finally came out and published this book in conjunction with Sharon Lecter, who is a co-author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad with Robert Kiyosaki. In the book, the devil talks about two types of people, the drifter and the non-drifter. The drifters are non-thinkers, and the non-drifter is a thinker. He said 98% of the people are drifters. In a question from Hill, Hill's asked, describe all the ways in which you induce people to drift. Define the word and tell us exactly what you mean by it. And the devil answers, he says, I can best define the word drift by saying that people who think for themselves never drift, while those who do little or no thinking for themselves are drifters. A drifter who is one who permits himself to be influenced and controlled by circumstances outside his own mind. He doesn't know what he wants from life and spends all his time getting just that. A drifter is one who is too lazy mentally to use his own brain. Pretty powerful stuff. But he also gives 7 principles to keep you from being induced by him. Those 7 principles are: 1, you must have a definite purpose. 2, you must have mastery over yourself. 3, you must learn from your adversity. 4, controlling environmental influences, those you associate with. 5, time. 6, harmony. And 7, caution. Now, I don't have time to go into all detail of these 7 principles. You're going to have to read the book, and I recommend that to you. I challenge you to do that. Some of us, it will wake us up. I leave you with these 2 questions. 1, are you a drifter? Or are you a non-drifter? And 2, have you let fear smack